Brian, go ahead.
Hey, Coach.
Hey.
Now you guys are almost through spring ball. Are you liking what you're seeing out of the defense as a whole, and kind of what areas you feel like you guys have gotten better at, and maybe some things you still need to work on?
Yeah, I think we're looking for consistency. We talked about it kind of at length here, whether it's in training camp or last spring. When you go against your offense, you're either great or you stink. There's nothing in between. Yeah, it's been some really good days, some days that struggle. So just looking for consistency, both as a defense overall, as well as players. Some of the guys that have come back have done a great job. I can't say enough about Arden Walker. We talked about him taking more of a leadership role. He's done great. Ben Finiseth has been given a role and really run with it. A guy that this program means a lot to him. It's easy to see. Carter Stoutmaier's done a good job. Obviously, a bunch of injuries that happen in the spring, so we're just trying to get 11 out there sometimes. Excited for the rest of the week, excited for Saturday, and kind of see where it goes.
Coach, you've often been labeled as like a mad scientist in terms of your football IQ to your players. Is there a player on this defense that you think has a equal level of football IQ, or someone who's just as hungry to learn as you are?
I hope they're a lot smarter than I am. You put me on the spot there. I don't know. That's a great question. I think the great thing about the guys that we have is they want to know the why. And I think in this day and age, with the kids that you're getting, if you can clearly explain what the why is for each call, whether it's a situation, whether it's a defensive call, then they can understand it a little bit better. So I think it's our job as teachers to teach them that, hey, this is a backed up situation. This is what we're expecting. It's a third and medium. This is what we're expecting. And then all of a sudden the game happens a little bit easier for them. So that's a great question.
Scott, go ahead. Hey, Coach, you obviously have a background with safeties. You mentioned in your opening there, Carter. I'm just curious about how you've seen kind of the guys that you're counting on in that safety room, how they kind of progressed this spring. Obviously, Carter, Ben as well, like you mentioned.
Carter, as we all know, is a little bit of a Swiss Army knife for us. Play outside, or play in the slot, play in the post. I'm excited to kind of get him to one spot, so he can grow there. Tafik's come in, done a good job. We're a different program. It is what it is, the way we practice, all that stuff. So that can be eye-opening, especially for a guy who's still, going to his redshirt sophomore year. And then I think that's where a guy like Ben, shows up, and because he's just consistent. I think we as coaches, the big thing you look for is, can you be the same person every day? I'll take a C plus over an A and a D on 2 different days. So that's what we're looking for. Again, excited for the position, and obviously I'm very hard on those guys. That's kind of how I see the game. So excited for the competition.
Just to follow up that, you mentioned Carter, hopefully to lock it down in one spot.
Yeah.
What is the kind of position that you think kind of highlights his ability, his kind of skill set?
I think he's obviously a big guy that can run. So whether that's in the post or it's in the box, we can see some pieces around him, and while he's playing on one spot, we can do multiple things. So I think people talk about it all the time, the amoeba defense, whatever that is, right? If you can line up over tight end and play a deep half and then cover and then blitz, the more things you can do from the same kind of status quo look defensively, the better off the results, because the offense won't have a clue or a beat on what you're going to do. So excited for that. Yeah.
You've been wanting to design your defense around your players' individual strengths. What elements of your defense feel different this season with the personnel you have in your unit?
I joked around with Bucky. It was almost like that scene from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where he's like sitting in the room, he's looking around like, hey, where'd everybody go? We did it a little bit different. We took the first 6 practices and just wanted to see, what we had. Who can rush, who can cover, who can pad back, who can play the run, all those kind of things. And then for the rest of the way, trying to highlight those guys and see exactly what they can do. So, it changes by week also. I mean, we can be a great single high team, and you're playing a team that you got to play some zones. We got to adapt and adjust. So the more we can do to simple it down for our guys, the better. And that's a huge thing we've done this offseason is truly try to be technicians. So, hey, this is what curl vision is. This is what curl flat is. So when they look at it, that they've done those drills, they can do those things. So again, it goes back to his question. If we can have the same look and do multiple things, then hopefully we have the pin last defensively.
Jake, go ahead.
Coach, just what have you seen from Jaheim Otis and Tavian Coleman so far this spring?
Yeah, they've done a good job. I think Jaheim obviously is one of the world's largest men. So excited for what that looks like. There's, again, last year kind of coming off whatever happened in Alabama, injury and all that stuff. been very pleased with the way he works, and we just got to be more consistent. And then Coleman is a complete different body type. He's going to win with quickness. He's done a really good job with movement, so kind of see what we do and how we do it with him. Coach Pecco's come in and done a great job. With the inside guys, obviously. Anytime you walk around with 15 years NFL experience, people look at you a certain kind of way. And I think he probably had a C on his chest for, I don't want to short him, probably 8 years. So he's a mover of men. He's done a great job, as well as Coach Hilo with the ends. Really, really pleased with the front and excited to see kind of how it looks come fall camp.
Right. Coach, that inside linebacker is one of those spots where
the
two guys from last year are gone. And so what are you seeing out of that competition right now? Like, how do you feel like that's shaping up with the new guys, but also the guys that are back?
Yeah, it changes by day. We try to mix and match. We can't always say who's going to be in the game when and playing where. Reggie Hughes has come in and done a good job. A little bit different system for him, but he's a very, very prideful. And I think as a coach, that's what you want. Somebody that they know when they make a mistake. And I think the big challenge with Reg is play the next play. He's one of those guys that wants to be perfect, which is great. It's a great trait in life. And then, in between French and Salter and some of the new pieces that we've added, Mantrez, obviously, I think those are the only new ones in that room. It's just mix and match, and it's kind of role play and see what they can do. And, having a green dot in college football now, you'd love to have one guy that's on the field all 3 downs and trying to figure out who that guy can be and then, what the other ones can do. So we got a long ways yet, two left this week, and then obviously fall camp to kind of figure out exactly who they are and what they are.
Just real quick, follow up. I mean, Jalen Wester, Jeremiah Brown, a couple of the veterans in there.
Yeah.
How are those guys doing?
Yeah, I think, anytime you've been here, you kind of know the way we practice, and so their eyes aren't quite as open as the new guys. I'm sure halfway through the first practice, when we're full speed to everything and we're preaching that stuff, they probably look around like, "Whoa, is it going to be like this every day?" So they've been great sounding boards. Obviously, JB's going into year 5, probably closer to 15 college football this day and age, and then Jalen, obviously, his second year here, kind of getting his feet, fully on the ground and knowing exactly what it's going to be. I think too often we look at when guys transfer in and expect, immediate impact. I mean, they're people, right? They got to live somewhere else. They got to be away from their family. They got to figure out where they live, where they shop, how they get here. So I think hopefully that process has slowed down for them and he can just play ball.
Last one, Mac. Two for you.
Okay.
With Domata Pecco, how involved were you in that process, having that prior relationship with him? He mentioned that, he knew you ahead of time. And,
obviously, when D-Lou left, Domata was a guy that was highly, highly recommended. And when you're talking about like a mover of men, I think it starts with the person. And Domata is as real as they come. Again, to wear a C on your chest as a captain in the NFL when you're not playing a lot on third down, that kind of speaks to the guy he is in the locker room. And at the end of the day, it's our job as coaches, as men, to take an 18 to 22, 23-year-old kid and make him a better person. And there's no better person for that than Domata. So excited to have him. Obviously, I was a young scout / coach when he was there. When he came out here to play with VJ in Denver, that was in the transition period. So have been super proud of him from afar. We've had some conversations, and once we had a chance to do it, I was fired up.
And how about Coach Hilo? Now that he's down on the field, I assume that's where he's going to be. Who do you have somebody in line to be your eyes and ears?
Oh, there's a lot of movement. Yeah, we'll keep your eyes on your toes. But no, George was a lifesaver for me last year in the box. A guy that's kind of been in those environments and knows kind of how I see the game, and less is more on game day with me. So was really, really, crucial for our success last year. I'm excited for him and his new role. Again, he's a guy that is just a phenomenal coach, a phenomenal person. So yeah, I'd like to have him in the foxhole with me, and we'll see kind of how the other things play out.
Thanks, Sounds good.
All right, thanks guys.